Jason Hoosier, Hoosier Helpers. Today we're going to be starting the process of getting the John Deere planter ready for planting season. This little planter I just brought back from my dad's in Kansas, and we used to use it to plant gardens with. I thought it'd make a good little video of kind of restoring it halfway, and then using it this year to plant green beans and corn out in our garden as well as potentially other gardens. So hang out with me today while I disassemble this planter, paint the parts that need to be painted, make sure everything's in working order, and then put it back together.
Excuse me.
Excuse you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the seed hopper off, and what they've got is just a little spring tab that you pull out and turn, rock the tank back. And just looking at this planter, there's definitely some wear here where it's worn through. It's probably not going to affect us, no more acreage than we're actually going to plant. Set it to the side. And then you got this cover covering the bicycle chain. Pop that off. The chain looks good. To adjust the speed on this one. So this planter is a little different than what a modern planter would be. This planter is definitely an older style. The pack wheel here is actually also the drive wheel. Let me bring it down so you can see that. So on this planter, as you drive, you can see the pack wheel actually drives the chain, which drives the seed basket. In here you've got multiple different options for sprockets to adjust your seed rate. Then you also have different plates that will adjust which plate we use. But that all looks pretty good, and the bearings feel really good inside the pack wheel. I will take the pack wheel off, and I want to get as much of the rust off as I can and shoot it with a little yellow paint. And then probably do some painting on the toolbar frame. I'm also going to take the down pressure springs off, sand those up and paint those. I'm going to take the opening knives or opening wheels and take those off, sand them and paint them flat black or black as well. So all in all, I'm probably not going to paint the green so much. It's not going to be a focus of it, but I do want to paint the things that kind of would make it stand out and look a little nicer. Who knows, I might get some green paint and give it a shot of paint. So. So now I'm going to take this wire brush on the drill and buff out some of that rust. Alright, so that should take all the bolts out of the two halves of the wheel. Should be able to take the wheel halves out. And then set the tire aside for now. We'll clean it up before we go. I'm not worried about this. I might give it a little scuffing, but that's the last of my worries. What I really want to focus on is inside this rim. So got pretty much everything that I was gonna paint stripped apart. There's the pack wheel. Actually, when I started working on the can, I noticed that it was worn through. You can see this here. That's epoxy putty. There was a big line all the way basically around that was rotted out. So I went from the inside, sanded it good, and then I packed epoxy. They have a kind of a double rolled lip in here, I packed it full and it was oozing out a lot of those holes, so I had to sand that a little bit better. I think it'll be fine. It'll give it a little more support, but sanded it lightly. The cast iron piece here I wasn't too concerned about getting it super clean because you won't see it, but I will go ahead and hit it with primer. Come over here and look at the actual row unit. I've got it stripped down. All the rusty spots have been cleaned. I'll hit the worst areas with a little primer, but for the most part, I'm just gonna hit it with John Deere green. And we'll be good there. There's the cover. And then for the 3-point hitch bracket, I've sanded on it pretty heavy because we built this up out of a toolbar, and where the welds were at, it was pretty rusty and there was no paint left. So that'll get primed. All this stuff up here will get primed. And one of these wheel halves, as you can see, this one was in pretty bad shape on the rust, but it used wire brush and got all that or most of that knocked out, and then I hit it with the sander, and then I've done a degreasing on it and cleaning, so it should be good enough to hold paint for what it's going to be used for. It's not like it's going to be outside. There you have it. Everything that needs to be in primer is in primer. Even got the little levers down here. The bracket. I think the 3-point hitch arms are really going to look a lot better now that they're going to be painted green. And of course the tank looks good. And it's not going to be a show car quality, but it'll look nice when it's got a good coat of green on it. The wheels look good. This is the one that was rusted pretty bad. You can see the pitting, but yeah, they're pretty heavy wheel halves, so yeah, it should be fine. And I even had enough paint left over to hit some of the row unit. Not a lot of it, but you know, reality is it's going to have a good durable John Deere finish on it. And I don't believe this paint had primer under anyway, so it should be good. Well, we got the first couple coats of paint on everything. Looking shiny. To a local John Deere dealer here in Roanoke, Illinois. Probably should have bought a decal, but I don't know. It gives it a little class when it's the sticker's got some wear and tear on it. I'll show you the wheel. The wheel turned out pretty good. So everything's got at least 2 good coats of paint on it. Some areas more. And then I'll put the last coat of paint on after I reassemble the planter with the 3-point hitch arms, fold everything up. I'll give it a final once over with the last little coat and clean up my mess in the shop here, or garage. So, all right, we'll be back in a bit. Well, I finally got the old number 71 planter all finished up. You can see the paint job turned out pretty well on it. I mean, I didn't sand it down to be a perfect finish, but looks good. Should be durable. Show you a few of the things I've done to it in just a moment. So one thing I didn't do is I did not buy the new decal for the back. I thought the old one looked kind of neat with the scrapes and the scratches in it. Let you know that it is an old planter, probably 50 years old or better. So, okay. So a couple things I had to do. Down here, you'll see those 2 stainless steel bolts coming out. That's where originally the seed monitor sensor would have went in this side and then on the other side. I just put in a couple carriage bolts so it's nice and smooth on the inside. On the openers, I sanded them down as good as I could. You can see they're still pitted up pretty bad. But I sanded them, the bearings feel good, and it'll work for no more acreage than this thing's gonna ever plant again. And I shot them with gloss black to make them look kind of new. The wheels I disassembled so I could take the tire off. I used the original bolts on around the outside to mount the wheel back together. But then on the hub, I used stainless steel bolts, so it kind of looks like lug nuts or lug bolts, just to kind of set it off a little bit. Obviously, I took all this apart so I could paint the seed indicator. So this, when you get a full tank of seed, will be up, and as you empty it, it'll go down. But for planting sweet corn, you'll probably never have over about a pound or so of seed in it. Obviously, I painted the 3-point hitch arms and cleaned those up good. You've got this spring as well as those two springs. I painted those with a black paint. You can see I did get a little overspray when I was doing the final touch-up paint job, but ultimately it's not too bad. I believe I need to look to make sure that this depth adjuster is in the right direction. You can flip-flop that thing pretty easily. So on the can itself, you can see these here spots. This is where the can was actually either rusted out or worn out. What they've got is the bottom piece of cast iron comes in, and then they roll the lip under it. And right here on the inside is a ledge where that cast iron meets. So I'll show you what I ended up doing. So I went and got some of this two-part, it's actually like Play-Doh almost, but it's an epoxy that has the hardener and the resin all in one, and you just knead it together. I created a ribbon of it. I smushed it down into that area where the tank and the bottom cast iron meet, and I pressed it in until it was coming out, and then I cut it off flat with the tank. But you can see it looks pretty good. It should help stabilize the can in the event that it ever continues to rust. But I think it looks all right. And then I painted the inside of the can with just a Rust-Oleum gray, just to give it a little bit of protection on the inside from the elements. This little spring down here, that's the latch spring for the tank. It was about 5 or 6 pieces where the coil had just rotted out. So I just went over to the hardware store and got a spring that would work for it. And then a stainless steel washer on it, so I didn't have to worry about painting it. And then a stainless steel cotter pin so it won't rust. The spring itself is galvanized, so it should be durable. The main U-bolts here, I just painted them with a flat black Rust-Oleum. They're probably gonna rust, and I know that they were going to. My thought was to touch them up with a little John Deere green, but I thought they looked kind of neat the way they were, so probably just leave them like that. And if they rust a little, that's okay. And of course, you got the down pressure adjusters here. You can see the paint wasn't fully dry when I was assembling this, and this is where I had them originally set at when I was assembling things, and it chewed off a little of the paint, but it's not a big deal because more than likely once you get it set up where it's going to be at, I can retouch them up and let it dry good, and then they'll be good for quite a while. All right, well, that's my review of the restoration of the old John Deere 71 planter. Should be good to go to be hooked onto the BX, which you can see here has got the box plate on it right now. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Hoosier Helpers. I know it's a little bit different than what we typically show, but it was a fun episode to put together. And click that subscribe and hit that bell so you can actually get notified of when this old 71 is going to be put into action. Probably in the next couple weeks you'll see this thing planting in the garden. So hope you enjoy it. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.